Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. My name is Miguel Sanchez. I'm your host. And in my ever growing quest for financial freedom, I look for different revenue streams. So hopefully, by watching this content, you and me one day can be financially free. Today, I'm going over how to create an app. I think a lot of times I get a lot of people who have ideas and they're like, hey, I got an app idea. And they don't know where to start and how to save themselves a lot of conversations and a lot of money. So what I wanted to do today is just go over the whole process, like how to create an app for the cheapest amount you're going to have to spend. You're still going to have to spend money unless you know how to code yourself or design. Yeah, code and design yourself. You're going to spend money somewhere. And even just, dealing with the app stores, it costs money. So if you have an idea like an app, you have to understand there's a cost that you're going to have to pay. But I'm going to show you today how to pay less of that cost. So this is where you start. If you have an app idea, and this is always where I start out. Somebody says, hey, I got an idea to do X. The first thing is, who does this app? First. What is the problem that this app is solving? And then who is it solving it for? So if I give you an example, Mass Ideation just did an app for a actually I'll give you an actual startup that we did their app. And this was a different type of app. I'm not even just talking about mobile apps either. I'm talking about any kind of app. It can even be applied to games. So if you ever wanted to create a game, it's the same process. So this is what I teach the young people that work with us at MetaBronx too. You can make an app, you can make a game, you can make a website, you can make a virtual reality, whatever it is. It all starts with the same process. First part is, what's the problem you're solving, and then for who. So, for example, I'll give you. There was a group that came to me that wanted to create an augmented reality surgery app, and it was not going to live on a phone. So, it was going to live on this virtual reality, augmented reality glasses. But the first question was, who is this for? Of course, it's surgeons, right? If you're going to do surgery, you have to be a surgeon. So why do you want to know who's it for and what's the problem it solves? For this project, the problem it solved was a lot of people die in surgery. I didn't know this. It's a lot of people die in surgery, and it's because doctors don't have the right information available to them at all times. So they have to make decisions sometimes without the right data. So they came to me to help them build the first version of their app based on this fact, right? So we basically figured out, okay, how can we create what's called the MVP, minimum viable product. Minimum viable product is important because you're not going to start your app with everything, every single feature, because it's going to cost a lot of money. And another big reason you don't want to do that is you could be thinking of features that most people don't want. So I've literally seen, and I've seen this more in my agency work with Mass Ideation, where we build things that cost ungodly amount of money, and people don't use them, right? So in the startup world, that happens a lot too, right? You think of this feature, you think it's going to be cool, and you're like, oh, let's spend X amount of money because we really think people are going to want to do this. And then you launch the app and nobody does that feature. They do another feature. So that's why you don't go too crazy with the features. You figure out the first 3 features that help that target audience. So we did that with this app. I can't really talk about it still. But the overall, there's videos out there about this project, and maybe I'll link to it. But if you think about an app, and this is not just for an app, like I said, it's for anything. It can be your website too, but apps are what everybody thinks about now. Oh, I got an idea for an app, right? You have to understand what the problem is you're solving. Why would someone use this app? Why would they download this off the App Store? Why would they come back to it, right? Because that's another thing. Some people will be nice, open your app because it's you or me, right? Hey, check out my app. But why do I come back? What makes me want to come back? So there's all kind of things that create this addiction, for a lack of better term, to people using apps. And this is what the social dilemma was about. And I made a video about that a few days ago. What is called is the feedback loop. What you need to do when you create an app is create a feedback loop that makes people go through a process, then want to go through it again. The problem with the feedback loop is it is playing on our mental, I guess the things that helped us become what we are today, right? The things that helped us survive in the wild, now we're being used. They're being used by people like me to keep you on an app. So there's pros and cons to knowing this stuff and not abusing it, right? Because there's some people that don't know it and they just do it, and then it happens and they don't know better. But if you know better, you do better, right? So why I bring it all up is because the first thing you have to think about is, what are people going to do, and what are you going to do to make them want to keep doing it, right? So I'm about to launch an app. It just went to beta testers. And if you're interested in being a beta tester on one of my new projects, actually on the Mass Ideation website, there's a beta tester URL. I'm gonna put it in the chat. So basically, you start out with who it's helping, what problem is it solving. Another big reason you figure out 3 personas is where you want to kind of start. You want to start out with 3 different types of people. So actually yesterday, can't talk about that one either. It's hard to work on projects that you can't talk about. I can't wait to make an app where the client lets me explain everything that's going on from the whole time. I think it might just need to be me making the app by myself, because I never can get people to agree to want to do that. But I will be promoting something else that hey, my sons are watching. Hi, I think this is probably Trey, or Matthew, or Max, whatever. So basically, first step is, what do you want the idea to do? And usually people have that, right? So they'll come to me like, hey, I have an idea for how you can do how people can do this and how I can make money. So they have the idea, right? Based on this, how they thought about it. A lot of times people think about the idea because something happens to them and they're like, there has to be a better way, right? And now we have these phones. There must be a way to use these phones to do this in a better way. So I've had people come to me with parking apps, dating apps, education apps, productivity apps, all kind of ideas based on them understanding the problem that they want to solve, right? And for who, right? So when you have that, what is the first step of actual work you can do to save yourself a ton of money? Is I'm going to show you on the screen. Hey, Trey, my son watching. So I'm going to share my screen. What you're going to see is what's called information architecture. What you're going to see is going to be a little bit high level, you would think, but you can do this on a napkin. It doesn't need to be in this format for it to be used. So let me share my screen. So Chrome has lost permission. Oh man, I can't share. Hold up. All right. I'm not going to be able to show my screen. I'm not sure what's going on right now. But what information architecture is it's kind of like a blueprint of a home, right? So let's say you have you're rich and you're about to create your own home, right? And it's just land. What are you going to give an architect? The builders. You need to get an architect, right? So information architecture is the same idea. What information are the builders, Instead of being physical builders, that they were software developers going to need to build what you want, right? So what it normally is boxes and words, right? So the first screen, what does it look like? All right, log in. You know, the login has two bars that basically allows you to put your login information, right? You have a button to submit or sign up, all that stuff. You can draw it out. It doesn't even have to be that good. I've even seen AIs. This is crazy. This is happening. And any developers watching, you need to look out for this. There's AIs that will take your drawing and make the information architecture from your drawing. There's even some AIs that will make the actual code for the app from your drawings. So this is the future we're heading into, right? And this will allow for more innovation, which there's pros and cons, right? You're going to lose some jobs, but you're going to allow anybody to create something, right? And right now, you definitely need people like me that understand these middle areas, but eventually you won't need people like me. You're just going to be able to say, I have an idea, I go here, I make it, done, right? So but for now, for the next at least 10 years, you're going to have to deal with people like me. So here's what you need to think about when you're coming up with this idea is what does every screen have on it, right? So this is where you can save a lot of money because information architecture developers or designers, they are very expensive. It can cost you almost to sometimes more than half of your project budget just to do the UX, which means user experience documents. So they either call them user experience documents or information architecture documents. So when you're thinking about it, the first thing to do is draw it out. It'll save you so much money because if you make another person think through this before you give them something like this, they're spending a lot of time trying to figure out your idea for you. But you're already figuring it out, right? So if you just made this drawing, and like I said, it could be on a napkin. It could be you could get a loose leaf notebook. I'm even thinking about making a notebook that has the breakdown of how to make an app. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Maybe I'll do it. So you basically, I wish I could show you. I'm not sure what's going on with my sharing, but let me try one more time. Follow these steps. Oh, okay. It's a whole thing. I'm not dealing with it right now. I'll deal with it for next show. So once you draw that out, right, and you say, this is what I think the app needs. The way to think about drawing that out is, again, comes down to the three personas you're thinking about and what's the simplest thing you need them to do to prove your concept. So, I'm trying to think of something I can talk about. What's a project that I can talk about? I'm going to make something up. Again, I'm going to come back to Hot Dog Uber, which if you watch my shows, I keep making that as an example. So if you have an idea like delivering hot dogs and anybody can order a hot dog and a car will come and drop it off, right? Who knows? Someday that may exist. But right now, people will go to Uber Eats for something like that, right? You will order from a hot dog stand or, papaya or whatever, and they will come bring it to you. But what if there was a way to get it for cheaper and faster because you only dealt with one type of food, right? That's where you would say, okay, who's the type of person that would want to order this? What would be the ideal times to really make sure this app is running and we have as many drivers and all that stuff? So basically, you think about the ideal customer. So I'm going to ask for people. All right, you know what? I can talk about it a little bit. I just got a project that is creating devices to help women during assaults, right? So one of our partners, my mass ideation partners, companies, they sent this group to me because they're creating some IoT devices that will allow women, when they are about to be assaulted or being assaulted, to gather evidence for the crime. Because what happens is, if you go through an assault and you don't have evidence, it becomes so much harder to prove that this happened to you. So It's a huge problem. On that team, there's an FBI, like a 20-year FBI agent. It's cool. It's a cool project. So I talk to them the same way I talk to you. Okay, I understand the project is meant to help, but who is going to use it? Who's going to buy it? And who's going to use it day to day? So I said, all right, maybe our three personas will be a woman, right? Maybe 20 to 30-year-old woman. And when you do a persona, you wanna like zero in as far as possible. So you want to think about age, race, and location. Why is that? One, it helps you to figure out people to talk to about the idea first. So what we're about to do is we're gonna release a form to see what features, because these women have thought of a bunch of features. They feel like these are things that people will want during an assault and after an assault to have and be able to use, because the FBI agent knows what happens with a lot of crimes that go unsolved. She's created some things, and then the founder has thought of some other things. So I said, all right, we need to come up with a form that asks some questions so we can come back and understand the three things we need to build first. Or, I mean, and it doesn't even have to be three. I like three. A lot of people like three. Three is a good number for the human brain for some reason. So I try to do three personas, three features, right? And what's going to happen though is they are going to through user testing ask what women would want in a device or an app if they've ever been assaulted, which I know is a tough thing to think about, but these founders have had a lot of experience with that, so they know what happens, so they have some ideas. But the public is different than two people, so what you want to do is ask as many people as possible. What in order of priority do you believe this app should have? So let's say you have 10 feature ideas. You create a form and you say, if you can order in order of priority, what feature do you think should be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way to 10? So that's what we're about to do. You will be seeing a form. I'll ask people to fill it out. I think it's a great project, and just giving us feedback helps to maybe save some lives, you know? So basically, the first step is understanding the feature set, right? Then what you do is understand the order of priority, right? So now let's say you figure out the first three features. Now all you have to do is draw out those three features. You have to think through, okay, how would this work? And everybody's using an app. At this point, my mom, who, happy birthday, Mom, today's my mom's birthday, is they have used an app. My mom uses apps now, right? She plays games, she uses apps. So there's not many people on this earth that don't have app experience. So you can say, all right, when I use Instagram or Facebook or another app that you think is similar, how does it look? How does it start? What do they have? So you can even look at some apps. You can draw chicken scratches. You can draw circles, boxes. It doesn't need to be a work of art. You just need to communicate what you want to do to a developer or a person like me that's kind of like a middle person that helps the developer and the idea person speak the same language. I'm kind of like the translator, right? So the idea is, first step, understand who is it for, what's the problem it solves, then create this information architecture, and based off the features you know people want, right? And then what you do, this is where right there, this can save you so much money. So if I tell you about the project that I'm talking about with the women and the assault victims, app companies were telling them this app was going to cost $500,000 to do. And I remember saying, I could put somebody in space for $500,000. Like, I don't know what they think they're building. Show me the information architecture. So when I looked, I was like, oh yeah, no way, right? So that's where, again, you right there, they're raising money through venture capital, but that could be a large savings of money. Maybe $450,000 worth of savings, right? based on understanding what you're building. Because if you throw the kitchen sink at a development team, of course they're going to say, sure, let's do it. We're going to make a lot of money on this. I don't like doing that because if the project don't survive, it's gonna end bad anyway, right? So you can make a lot of money off building one thing, but these apps, you can make a lot more if over time they keep iterating, because these apps, they update all the time. If you ever see on your phone, apps update almost every week. Why is that? Because they're seeing what's going on and they're updating. They're not making all the features day one. If you look at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram now versus the first day they launched, they look completely different. So over time, you make updates, you add features, you try things, see if that works. So you make the full list, but you don't go all in and spend all your money on all the features, because you could blow a lot of money. So what you do is you try to hone in on 3 features. Sometimes it can only be one. Right now, I'm about to launch with an app that it's only 1 feature. And of course, there's a lot around it, and it did cost a substantial amount of money, but a lot less than if I wasn't involved because of that, right? So this is where you want to look at MVP. And I don't mean most valuable player. I mean minimum viable product. And they say, there's a saying app developers and startups, entrepreneurs say, if your first release doesn't have a bunch of bugs, people complaining, and problems, you're launching too late. Because the sooner you get it in people's hands, the more you learn, the more you save. So another reason to create this user experience drawing is because then you can give it to what's called a user experience architecture creator or designer. Oh, DoorDash. Yes. Oh, my son is talking to me. Blueprint for the app. Yes, exactly. The skeleton like DoorDash. Yeah, all right. You know what's going on. My son knows what's up. So basically, what was I saying? I forgot. That's good. I'm proud of my son knowing about apps. So, okay. Let me try to remember what I was talking about. Man, I totally forgot. All right. So let's say we're up to the point where you have to talk to developers, right? Developers need to see this in a way that they understand it. Of course, they can look at this drawing, but what a user experience architect does is they create the blueprints that the builder needs. So just like building a house, right? I could be like, oh, you know what? I want 5 rooms, 2 bathrooms, right? But I'm not an architect. I don't know how to draw that. So a builder knows, oh, this wall needs to be 10 feet. This wall needs to be 8 feet, whatever it is, right? So what a user experience architecture designer does is they create that. And that takes work. If you can learn how to create that, you'll save even more money. And that's where I like to do stuff. I'm not a coder anymore. I'm not coding stuff myself anymore. I make the user architecture and the design, and then I talk to different developers, bring in different people to work in mass ideation and build it. So for you, same idea, right? I'm giving you what I do. You could do this yourself, right? You don't need to hire me. You can do it. What you need to do is have the idea as a good enough place where you can show somebody that can make you this document. Think about it like an architect. You have an idea for your house. You want to get it to an architect. It's an information architect, though. So you get that. Then you figure out, and this, remember, not too crazy. Don't go too crazy, because an information architect could also spend a lot of time if you have too many features. So this is why another reason you limit how many features, because every feature means more screens, more back and forth, more money. So you want to limit to the MVP, right? So if you take this document and then you shop it around to different developers, right? So this is where you can keep control of your project, right? Because, for instance, these women, before they came to me, the app developers said, well, 500K includes everything. But if you do the user experience document yourself, it's probably going to cost you more on our side. And I was like, that's messed up and wrong. But of course they're going to tell you that because they want to make more money. And a lot of the budget goes into the UX. But you need to control your project. You can't have someone else controlling your user experience document, because the difference between an information architecture document and an architect document that builds a house is, once that house is built, it's done. But an information architecture document is a living document. It basically changes a lot. And that's how these apps, Twitter, Facebook, they basically have a document, and I've seen them, they basically have a document that changes every week. And people like me and a group, they're thinking, all right, what's the next feature we can add? All right, this was giving us problems based on the data they're seeing in the app. They're like, this button maybe needs to be bigger, so let's make it bigger. So that document keeps changing. But you need control over that document. You need to understand it. You need to know how to work it, especially if this is something you want to be successful, because the first time you make an app, it's just not going to be perfect. You know, you're going to have things that you're going to have to change. So this is another place where you actually save money. By having this document and it not being a design, it be more what's called high fidelity user architecture, meaning it's in computer. They designed it on a computer, but it's not like super designed, right? So it doesn't look like a finished app. It's just squares, boxes, text. But what happens is, when you make a decision to make a change, if you change it when you have to change it on the design and the user architecture document, user experience document, you have to pay twice. But if you're just making decisions based on this document, this user experience document, you only pay once, right? And then once you decide and you say, yes, I like it like this, then you have the designer do it once. And that's why I told you in the beginning, user experience people make money. They make a lot more money because they go a lot of the back and forth. It's simple when it comes down to how it looks, but the thought process is pretty high level. So, and it's a lot of back and forth based on talking to different people and thinking it through before you move it to the designer. Then when you give it to the designer designs it, and then he gives it to the developer, or she gives it to the developer. But what happens if you don't have that user experience document and you want to make a big change because you've already developed the app based on that design, where you could have saved a bunch of money if you did the user experience document? So this is the process. User experience document, design, then show it to developers, right? And then you'll get quotes back. So what I like to do is, I don't want to quote for the whole thing. I want to quote per feature. And what that allows me to do is talk to the founders, the investors, and say, hey, here's the 10 features. Here's the 3 that we thought were the most important. But we've also saw that maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 could work. 1, 2, and 3 cost X. 4, 5, 6, 7 cost X, right? And they can see, and they can say, all right, you know what? We are willing to invest in 4 too. So let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you could do that yourself too, because let's say make math easy. You say, all right, I want to make an app for 10K. I have 10K to make an app. And this actually happened to me. You know what? I'll give you that example. I had thought of an app idea that exists now, but when I thought of it, it didn't exist. And the idea was, I would go to the barbershop and I would always have to wait for my haircut. If you go to barbershops in the hood, you know what I'm talking about. You sit there for hours, everybody's talking crap, laughing, watching sports, but you're sitting there for like hours sometimes. If you use the barber that's really popular, you're sitting there for hours. So I was like, man, I'm busy. I wonder if I could pay somebody to skip them, right? And I was like, I'm sure I could, but what if I take this digitally? And I say, all right, you have to create a schedule that the barber sticks to. Because another thing is, barbers, they take long because they're talking crap, right? So if I said, all right, an average haircut, math easy, is a half hour. I'm going to take the 3:30 slot. Oh, this was 3:30 exact when I said that. That was crazy. I'm going to play Lotto, which is another thing. I'm going to make a video later today, talk about something. A Lotto app that helps you save money. Genius stuff. The video will be up soon. So I basically put up I put up my schedule as a barber. I say, all right, I'm going to work Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6. And then I can book one of those slots. That existed, right? Everybody knows about that. So there's definitely an app now that exists and is doing very well that does that. But my idea was, what if I can tell that person in front of me, I'll give you $10 to skip you because I got to go to a meeting and I can't wait to 8 or whatever. I can't wait the hour I need it. I want your slot. And then what could happen is kind of like an eBay bidding war for that time slot. Like what if somebody else comes along and says, I'm willing to give $20, then we got a bidding war. So that was my idea. And when I thought of it, I did all this. I did everything I told you. And the developers told me it was going to cost me $10K to build it. And I was like, all right, what can I take away to make it cheaper? But then I spoke to my mentor. And this is very important information. If you're going to make an app, you need to understand how you're going to make the money back, right? So what I was about to spend the $10K because I thought the idea was good. And I was like, all right, one of my mentors asked me that. Okay, so how are you going to make the money back? And I said, good question. I'm going to come back with that. And for some reason, I started asking the barber I was working with, I was using, and I couldn't really figure out something that I thought they would pay for and the user would do. So even the idea of bidding on that time slot, I would ask people in the barbershop, would you do that? Would you, like right now, because I thought about it from my perspective, right? I had a meeting downtown. I'm in the Bronx about to get a haircut, and I'm like, I walk in, there's like 5 people. And I'm like, oh man, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get a haircut now, right? So I was like, I would pay one of these people to skip them, but I asked, and they're like, nah, I'm good. I need that slot. And I'm like, damn, do I gotta make it more expensive then? But at a certain point, it's like, you know what? I'm just not gonna have a haircut, right? But I asked, and people were not willing to do it. So I said, you know what? I don't know if this makes sense to spend $10,000 on, because what if people don't want to use it, right? So I didn't do it. At the end of the day, I said, I'm not gonna do it. An app exists like that now that it doesn't do the bid thing, but it does a lot of the ideas I had, and they just raised like a crazy amount of money. So, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I didn't spend the money because I didn't know how I was going to get it back. So that's the thing I tell most people, because I can take your money, right? I could build anything. Anything you could possibly want, I could build it. But you're going to be upset if you spend this money and you don't have a plan to make the money back. And of course, a lot of people say, yeah, but what about Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that? That is very different. That's a very different scenario. Those people have money behind them day one. Before that app is even written, they have money, like big time money behind them, where they can host the servers. Because another thing I didn't talk about before is, if your app starts doing well, you're going to get a bill from the hosting plans that host your app, because your app lives somewhere. Right? And it's not only on the phone. There's files that go back and forth online that you have to pay Amazon and different places. And I've literally seen projects where it's thousands of dollars a month and this company's not making any money. How are they doing that? They're getting investors to pay that time. And the investors are saying, I'm willing to pay until this amount of time and traction for all of the costs. Don't try to charge anybody anything. Let's just get people on the app and get them using it. So that's one model. That's a freemium. It's called freemium model. And that's pretty much what the Social Dilemma, the Netflix special talks about. That model, which means I have to addict you to my app for you to use it so much that somehow eventually I make money from you. Most likely selling your data. So the other option is some type of fee that's used. So for my idea with the barbershop, I was thinking, okay, one thing I would do is I would make the person pay for that slot up front. So let's say I do have the 3:30. I got to pay it right now. So like if my cut usually costs $25, I got to pay $25 right there to book that spot. So what does that do for the barber? Cash flow, right? It gives them, because now I know these slots are taken, but I also got that money. I got the money up front, right? And if the person doesn't show up, Maybe there's some type of give back. I don't know. But that was my idea. Like, all right, let's make both sides more respectable of other people's time, the barber and the person that is coming to get a haircut. Because if you've been in the hood barbershop, you got the guy who's coming and he's like, yeah, but he's right around the corner, and he's like, no, he's not, he's just got in his car, give me the cut now, and by the time he comes, right? So that was kind of the situation. And I thought of this idea maybe 12 years ago, 13, just when apps first came out, but I didn't do it, and I kicked myself a little bit over it, but it is what it is, right? So if you have an idea like that, it comes from one of your problems, you have to figure out, okay, will somebody pay for this? So I can give you many examples of people that come to me with ideas, and I'm like, how are you going to make money? I don't know. Based on my mentor doing that to me, right? And of course, I could take your money and have you make a cool looking app that you just wasted money on, right? And I've built apps for $1,000. I've built apps for $100,000 and up, right? And the ones for the higher amount, a lot of times they were for advertising agencies, so it's a little different because they don't care as much about, a lot of the same things. They don't need to make the money back. It's an advertising campaign, right? So it's different. But when you are a startup, an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out how to make this thing a revenue stream, right? So making an app can be a good revenue stream. I've heard of apps that make 10, 20, 100 grand a month, right? $1 million a month, right? So if you look at certain games like Flappy Birds, I don't know if you remember that game, Flappy Birds, where it was just you tap and the bird goes up. That guy was making $80,000 a day on that app. How did it make money? Every time you lost, it showed an ad. And the game was so hard that you lose over and over and over again. And it got really popular. So there was millions of people going over and over again, dying, and showing ads after ads after ads. And he made a lot of money. But it was a freemium model, right? It was free to play the game. You didn't have to pay, but they were going to advertise to you. So, right, so whenever you see ads, it's because that's how they're making their money, right? So it's one of the ideas of an app, right? Okay, how do you make money? Charge people, put ads, sell the data. Those are pretty much the main ways. Can't really think of other ones. Yeah, it's either like a revenue split. That could be another thing. Revenue split, charge for the app up front, sell the data, or show advertising, right? So right now, the freemium model is being like really looked at as like an evil thing, because what is it doing? It has to make you addicted to the app, so you keep coming back and making more ads show. That's what Instagram's doing. That's what Facebook's doing. Even YouTube, all of them are doing it, right? That's the business model, and people are okay with it because, like, for instance, this show, there would be no way for me to create this type of show unless I had a lot of money. But YouTube allows that. How do they allow it? Through advertising. So I got to be okay with it. They're okay with it. You eventually will see ads in front of my videos. And that's how I'll make money. That's how YouTube will make money. But that's the trade-off. It's either I don't do this or I spend a bunch of money setting this up, which I don't have, and not doing it, right? So there's all these like ethical arguments now about this stuff. And it's a super interesting time. I do believe we're heading into like the golden age of technology, because now we've went through the first phase of like just figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Now we're starting to think about how we can actually help humanity with these ideas. And we're looking at these test cases of, these apps that are not doing things the best way. But I don't think they set out to do that. And that's why you got to watch The Social Dilemma, because nobody sets out to do this, but it happens. And you need to be able to adjust and work ethically to create the best scenario for your user. Because without users, you don't have anything. So if you're doing things that is anti the user in the long run, you're going to lose. So you don't want to do that, right? So when you think about this app process, let's say you show your UX to multiple people. UX document. Now you have this digital document that you're going to show to a bunch of developers. Now you start getting back quotes. Oh, we could do this for 10 grand. Oh, we could do this for 50 grand. Oh, we could do this for 500 grand. Oh, we could do this for 25 grand. You're going to get it all across the board, right? Whatever it is. How do you vet the developers, right? Especially if you're not technical. I'm lucky enough to be technical enough to vet developers. I know when they're lying to me. I can tell when they're bull, you know. But if you can't, one thing I've done in the past, and I still do it, is I will give a developer a small task within the project scope. So let's say we talk about my barbershop app, the one I never did. I would tell a developer, okay, here's the UX. How much to make the home screen? Whatever the range is. I would say, okay, just work on the home screen right now. Let's just work on the home screen. So during that process, right, you pick something that's not too integral. A home screen is pretty integral, but whatever. You pick something that's not too integral, not too hard, but something that you could start a relationship working with this person. Because what will happen is you will start to see how these people work under pressure, how they communicate with you. A lot of times developers are not the greatest communicators, and the way they talk to you sometimes is like, who do you think you are? So you got to kind of like understand the relationship, because before you go all the way and have someone build your entire app, you want to know how they are. You know, are they easy to work with? Are they going to be a P in the A, right? Like, you don't want to have to deal with someone that's an a-hole for like months, you know, and pay them on top of it. So you want to test them out. And of course, people hide their craziness. So that's another thing. You have to kind of, and this is something I tell my project managers. So if any developers are watching this, sorry. But it's necessary. Do something that you know is going to kind of make them angry to see how they react. Because you want to see that as early as possible. I've been in scenarios where I'm working on a massive project, huge budgets, and the developer just does something to me at the end that's just like kills the project. I almost get sued, and I never even would have saw it coming. But if I would have known some of the things earlier, I would have escaped that, right? So that's an entrepreneur lesson that I learned that I could just give you right now so you don't learn it. But even that, you got to have backup. So what do you do to have backup? What I do is I create phases, and the payment is only released based on them giving me the code, right? So let's say app 10K barbershop app. Let's say, to make the math easy, is going to be four phases at 2,500 each. So the first thing I would say, all right, I'm not going to give this person 2,500 out the gate. I'm going to give them 500 to 1,000. And let's say what I can get for 500 to 1,000, and I'm going to start testing how we work together, right? Because it's better to lose 1,000 than to lose 10, right? Better lose 5 too, but 500, but you got to do what you got to do to figure out that minimum area that makes both sides feel comfortable, right? So I will start out with 1,000, get that, put it on my code, which is GitHub. You can get a GitHub account free, and they can put the code on there. Another thing I do, personally, I look at the code because I know code, but I also will get someone else to look at the code, and I'd rather pay them for an hour of their time to make sure this person is doing it the way that makes sense for my future, right? So in a way, I'm definitely mitigating risk, right? Because a developer can code your stuff wrong, and then you have a $10,000 piece of crap, and the next person that comes along is just going to have to deal with it or redo it from scratch. It's another big thing. So another big thing you want to make sure you tell your developers up front is you're going to want documentation. You don't get paid that last amount until you have documentation. Why? That documentation is how you update the app. And if that developer disappears, get hit by a bus, you have a way to update your app. And what you do with that documentation is you show it to another developer. Again, you want to have a budget to pay the developer and a budget for some outside people that you can have consult with you to make sure you're ensuring your investment, right? So you have people that can back up and look over this stuff and say, this is good. I understand it. Someone else will be able to take this on, if anything. So right there, you have the code. You have the documentation on how to use it. You've tested that. The code looks good because you showed developers. The documentation looks good because you showed developers. And you have a relationship that is going well because at this point, if you paid the person this much, they passed your little tests. And those are the major hurdles that you're going to have in creating an app, right? You're going to have to deal with people that, unless you are the developer, and that if that's the case, you're probably not watching this. Most of the times it's entrepreneurs with ideas. So I wanted to just create this because I've been getting more and more. I think what's happening right now, and this is a great thing, and I'm glad it's happening, and it's part of why I'm creating the content, is this is a huge opportunity right now. We're living in probably, I know COVID is a bad thing. Many people died, but it's probably one of the greatest opportunities in the history of the world. Like, people are going to come out of this in great positions. I already see major things happening around that. It's crazy. You're either going to be trying to get money and figure out something that is great to be having done by the time COVID is over and start doing it now, or you're not, right? So the people that are in the game right now, this is a great time to be in the game. So if you have an app idea right now, one, why is that? There's less amount of work out there, so developers are cheaper, right? There's not as much investor money going around, but there is. And now there's a lot more diversity focused investing versus not even 3 years ago. There was very little people willing to invest in women, in minorities, LGBT, whatever the marginalized group was. Anything other than white males were not getting investment. Now there's a lot more out there to help get investment. So, because I deal with MetaBronx, that is our main thing. That's what we do. And then Mass Ideation, we build apps. So I see a lot of different things. And this is I've never seen this opportunity. I've been, like I said, this is my third recession. And this one I feel like is going to be the best opportunity out of the other two. That's just from what I've seen so far. And we're not even into the main gutter of this depression that they're talking about, because what's going to happen is there's going to be some evictions starting to happen because not going to be enough money to pay bills and stuff like that. So that's going to start getting even worse. So you're going to be able to find, if you have money right now and you have a good idea, you're going to be able to get some good deals on developers and designers, whatever it is, because people are going to be like, you know what? This is not my normal rate, but right now I'll take it. And I've done it. I've done it right now, and I'll keep doing it. I'm going to pay my bills, right? Like, at the end of the day, you can hope for the best case scenario, but worst case comes, you got to take it sometimes, especially right now. Don't be too proud to take a little bit of a lower rate to get some money in. So, but if you're sitting on money and you have a good idea, it's never going to be a better time. Once the economy comes back, it's going to go right back up, and it's going to cost a lot more. And right now you can see a lot more opportunity because what's going on? We're in a very bad situation. So there's a lot of opportunity being shown to you. If you can say, oh, I have an idea for an app that can solve that problem, and I think people will pay for it because I know I will pay for it. Now, again, without spending any money, maybe do like I did, start asking people, and then draw out the idea, show it to a UX person and a developer, see what they think, get some prices, choose the main features you think based on you asking people, and then decide. Should I jump in? I tell you, like I did it during this pandemic, and the app is going to drop pretty soon. Well, let's see. We'll see what happens, right? We're in it to win it. And that's just one, right? And I'm involved in many different things, but that app, I was in it from the very, very beginning to the end, right? So that's where I can't wait to tell that story. Once it's launched, I'm going to tell the story. But for now, if there's any questions from anyone that is thinking about making an app, of course, put it in the description. unless you want to ask right now, or email me at miguel@massideation.com. I'm always willing to help. On the website also, there's massideation.com. There's a start your project link where I ask a lot of the questions, the key questions you should know how to answer before engaging in developers, because they're going to ask. And if you can't answer, it could just cost you more money. And not to say that it's going to charge you more, but they can be like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do that for you. And it'll just cost you more money. Instead of coming to them with this, it saves you money and makes a much better relationship with the developer. I remember when I came to the developer that's working on my app right now, he was like, I've never got this much stuff to build an app. Never. And I was like, well, I make apps, so I know what you're going to need because I deal with this too. So I'm making sure the app that I build, I treat you the way I wish my clients treat me, right? So what I just told you is soup to nuts how I do it. Start to finish. Persona, idea, persona meaning who is it for, who problem is solving. UX, based on the feature set that we know is most important. UX document, luckily I'm able to create those myself. Design, luckily I'm able to do that myself. Development, after all that, right? So that's where, of course, but it's not as expensive as you think, and it's going to be cheaper now. It's going to be much cheaper now. And you go to websites like Upwork, Fiverr, 99 Designs, and I'll put links because I get affiliate if you actually end up using them. There's a bunch of places now where people do stuff. So for instance, 99 Designs, you can get a design based on your UX, and I've done this. You can get multiple people to give you designs, and then you only pay a price, and whoever wins gets that prize. But you get a bunch of designs for the price of most likely one. Before, I would pay each person the amount that I'm paying for one contest on 99 Designs, which is genius. It may not be great for the designers, but it's good for the entrepreneurs. And it goes back to a lot of the content I'm creating. We're going down this path of the skilled labor. They're going to be in a tough position. The entrepreneurs, the owners, the creators, the innovators, they are going to be in the best scenario. So hopefully by watching my content, you're thinking, how can I innovate? How can I innovate every day? How can I get in this game? How can I get in this game? How can I bring my idea to fruition? How can I come up with something that is a revenue generator for me every month? And it just exists, or I like working on it and I build it up and build it up. It's definitely possible. I've seen it done by people not as technical as me, and you can too. So on that note, thanks for the video. Great content. Thank you. I work on a pivot tables for work. Part of the TKH team. Oh, hey, tell the Knowledge House I said what's up. That's amazing. Thank you for watching too. Definitely reach out. I want to know more about what's going on over there. So definitely huge opportunities right now. Huge opportunities because you can see the problems. You can see the problems. You also can see how the future is going to change. We're not going back to working in offices every day. There's so many different things that are going to change. And us having a device on us all the time, there's so many opportunities, so many. And it's never been cheaper, faster, easier to do this stuff. And we're only about 10 to 12 years in. The iPhone came out, I think, in 2007, something like that. So we're really early in the whole life cycle of this stuff. So get in, man. You're going to take your lumps, but it's worth it because you learn. And every time you learn, the next time you do better. So again, you know how I like to end my show? Innovate every day. And I'm going to play around with this new ending that I just created. Let's see how it works. But thank you for watching. And if you watched this far, please like it and subscribe to the YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching it. But I'm definitely trying to grow my YouTube and Twitch. So please subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch, and I guess Facebook. So thank you again. Have a good day.